Yay, we live. Okay, thank y'all for joining us. A bit later than 4. We wanted to make sure we could get everything we wanted to get in during this time. We don't want to really have a long piece, but there's some significant things that we need to talk about. We are talking about demanding that every protester who was arrested during the Louisville uprising and beyond have their charges dropped. We're not here just amplifying because our court date is this week, but it is. But we also noticed some things that took place during court. So we really want to amplify a need to support us at Louisville Community Bail Fund with court support and court watchers. We've got training going on for all those things. We have representatives here with our Louisville community, not Louisville community, I didn't mean to say that again, with our Louisville Organizing Collective, the different organizations that they're with and stuff. And so we got V, Sunny with the Party for Socialism and Liberty. We also have Lane, who is a coordinator with our Louisville Community Bail Fund's hotline, does an amazing job at that. And we also have Vega, an artist, activist with all different types of things in the world uh, from St. Louis, who came down here and showed solidarity. So we do organize with a lot of our partners that we've thrown down with, from Ferguson to Cincinnati, Indianapolis and stuff. We just want to amplify all of those things. As we talk about this, I just want to say personally, before I let somebody else go ahead, that I'm a bit frustrated at the way the court system here in Louisville continues to not talk to the other systems that it's a part of, but utilizes law enforcement to choose at will who they want to arrest, and how and what charges that they want to administer. So the things that we have seen in this moment have been really disgusting, not only to me, but I think to the rest of us who are fighting the injustice of not only police terrorism by murder, but also just the overarching arm that street police, regular officers on the beat are able to arrest people and adjudicate whatever charges that they want on folks. What we witnessed at court yesterday was a bit unnerving. People coming in to support and naming who they are, and then being pushed around on the live and Zoom. So it's not even a bit confusing. It was hella confusing. So I can only imagine if you weren't somebody who is down to fight to figure out answers for justice, what that's like as somebody who has to go to court every day. The other things I want to amplify is that, and I think Vega talked about this really good. So Vega, I really let you put that in detail. Another a group of white supremacists that our president, unfortunately, has called upon to do white supremacist shit. Well, Las Vegas, she'll probably come back. Have again done similar or even worse actions, mostly violence. Um, and and they don't get charged with anything, or they get let loose. So I think that's frustrating for me. But yeah, we really wanted to make sure that our main message is support Court Watch with LCBF, but also we have to demand that the charges that are being brought against protesters in opposition to the state are dropped. If anybody wants to go next, we can just popcorn in and out.
Yeah, I was going to talk a little bit about working with the Louisville Community Bail Fund, and I think a lot of people who are on this call would know what that is, but we're working in community defense, answering. We have a hotline set up that people who are incarcerated at LMDC can call our hotline, give us updates about things that are happening in jail, ask for support. And some of the things that we're hearing, I mean, we all saw, at least this time when we were arrested in jail, with just the way that our facilities are, that jails are not set up to rehabilitate anyone, to offer support, um, to help the people. And so, that was very clear when we were arrested. We were not given water for 14 hours, not given food. People, left throwing up from drinking the water. while we were incarcerated for even just a short time. And so I think there's a lot of trauma, related to even just a short experience in jail. So answering the hotline, talking to people who have been in LMDC awaiting just a trial for some of them, years, some of them months, and hearing their trauma and hearing their stories of the ways that the COs just flagrantly disregard their need for medical care, even if they had emergency surgeries scheduled before they were arrested. They're being denied medication, just really basic medications, visits with doctors. And so there's a lot of trauma happening for both protesters when they're arrested and for members in our community who are victims of violence in the state. So it's a traumatic situation. It needs to be addressed because nothing that is happening at LMDC is clearly rehabilitating anyone in our communities.
Lane, what made you want to volunteer with LCBF?
I grew up really privileged and sheltered from policing. So I didn't know, I guess, what policing looked like, what it really entailed. So I think, with social media and the resources we have now to share stories, that was helpful as a first introduction. Just hearing the trauma and the stories that people have interacting with the police and being incarcerated has been upsetting to me for a long time since I heard about it. But then seeing things firsthand, getting to engage in communities in Louisville this year that I wouldn't have been able to engage with if it weren't for some of the uprisings, and hearing stories of people who just grew up differently than I did, and who have encountered the police differently than I did, and then seeing some of it firsthand and hearing stories about it. It just kind of feels like we have to be a community that defends each other, and we have to step into roles where we can. So that's why I got interested in jumping in.
I think it's interesting when you look at the conditions of jails all across the country. What we're seeing in the Louisville jail is being replicated in jails and prisons across this country. And it's taking a toll on our communities. And so while folks are all up in arms when people say defund the police, what we're talking about is, instead of funding the police, that we're putting money in social workers and programs that will help elevate people instead of simply incarcerate them. And I think it's frustrating that protesters are on the right side of history in this. We are demanding that the system be abolished because it's inhumane and it's not working for anybody. I mean, I think that's one of the things that struck me in the jail, is that these jail workers make not very much more than folks who work at Walmart. And they are also traumatized by the system, even though they are on the other side and have power. They're not getting enough to even sustain a living. And so I think it's time that we really start to band together and see how all these things connect and link. And yes, it's about Mike Brown and Breonna Taylor, but it's about the whole damn system being broken, and how we, the people, are worth better than what they're trying to offer us. And I continuing to fight for that, just continuing to fight for it, because we're worth it. Breonna Taylor demanded justice. She needs justice and has not got it yet.
We're talking about, Vega, you said inhumane, and it just keeps coming back to how punitive justice just does not work. And, it's one thing to just lock people up, but they do so much more that is just cruelty. They actually have dehydrated people. They held people in the paddy wagons for, I think, 2 hours at one point. It was like 90 degrees. And then there was a man in that jail, I think, that is a repeat unfortunately a repeat person that keeps going into that jail. But and he didn't get any water from, you know, and what was told was that the nurse on staff was just like laughing when people were begging her to give him water. And it's just another, it's interesting how people think that they can punish people, and also how they have been so incompetent. They've gotten so many things wrong in just, you know, processing these arrests. What makes you think that it's okay for you to punish people that you may not even actually have the right people to punish in the first place? Why aren't we punishing the ones that actually murdered Breonna Taylor, murdered David McAtee, and all the other individuals on that banner and more? There were so many people that LMPD and LMDOC actually have committed crimes against, and they have not been tried. They have not been held accountable for their actions. And here we have these protesters who are bringing food to people in the square, who are clothing people, who are feeding people all throughout the community and have been for years. And we're just wanting to punish them for standing up for our rights. And to take that away, you're actually hurting the community more, because we have been taking care of each other. We take care of each other, not these systems, and they keep trying to take us away from one another. That's the real harm here.
I tell you, every single time that I have been put in jail for civil disobedience, I come out more committed to fighting the system, because when you're in there, you see up close and real how horrible it is and how there's no need for it to be like that.
So someone commented stating this is all pre-trial. So that's something that's really a big thing to emphasize, is that people are experiencing this demoralization and this dehumanizing like treatment before they're ever convicted of a crime. So these are people who, for all intents and purposes within the judicial system as it exists, are considered innocent. So these are people who have not gone to trial. They have only been charged with things, but even under what should be a fair and just system, they're being punished before they've ever actually been convicted of any crime. So even in an ideal situation where we say, yes, this is a balanced system, in what way can we say that when there are people who are being like humiliated and starved, dehydrated, abused in these places before we've ever even determined whether they're guilty of the crime that they've been charged with? And Dee was talking about an individual who was there with us. He was not arrested on the bridge, but was someone who was at the jail and had been in the jail previously multiple times. And this is just an example of the way that our funding is inadequately providing for our community. This is someone who has serious mental health and like psychiatric needs and physical health needs that are not being addressed by these systems. Instead, he's being punished over and over again in ways that are going to continue to happen because there's no way that his actual needs are being met through the system. So this is just a cycle that continues.
I'm glad that you brought that up, Sunny. I'm sorry, Lane. I'm gonna kick it to you too, because the question that is here too is, how is it that some protesters are arrested still, but yes, some protesters are arrested multiple times and released the same day. Sometimes multiple regular community members are as well. That's the injustice that we're talking about. The way that officers want to pick and choose who gets what, and then that goes into an entire system where they go to arraignment, and the judge then, now we can talk about judges, right? The judge then makes their own personal decision whether or not this person can deal in society, basically. So that's where we get this kind of combination of folks and different people based on like the different charges that they have. There are some drug dealers who get longer time than people who've actually committed DV or violence. There are people who still utilize 911 as a way to, play games against their friends and folks. And it's just a really shitty system that exists to try to gauge whether or not somebody should be, and let's be real, be enslaved. This is what the 13th is about, 13th Amendment, amplifying that we can still enslave people based on a judge's request, or someone who calls 911, or the person who arrests that person because you call 911. Sorry about that, Sunny.
Sorry, I didn't catch that last part.
Oh, I thought you were still speaking.
Sunny, I was going to say there was something interesting that I remember overhearing. I don't know if you'd be comfortable to share an interaction between you and an officer where you were advocating for someone who had a physical disability, and their zip ties on their wrists were so tight they were cutting off their circulation, and she wasn't able to sit up properly. And we were really worried. We were calling for the officers who were ignoring us. And I remember that an officer looked at you and said, "Well, they're not supposed to be comfortable." And it was a small, it's a small thing in comparison to some of the things that they do to people who are incarcerated and arrested. But I remember you saying, so does our punishment begin now then? Or do we have, under the system that you are, that you're working under, do we have a right to a trial, to are we guilty immediately? Are we guilty right now and you're punishing us by cutting off her circulation, or can you help her by loosening her cuffs while still restraining her? We're asking for a very simple act of compassion that you're doing for other people, but this goes to what Chanel was saying. They were arbitrarily deciding who they would help and who they wouldn't, who they would offer comfort to and who they would not. And that's how our system is designed, not designed with order, that some protesters are, not all protesters are given the same rights. Not all people are given the same rights when they're arrested. This is an arbitrary system based on feelings of the officers who arrest you, based on your judge. That's why we do court watch. That's why we're keeping an eye on judges to see if they're consistently making decisions to, deal out harsher punishments to people of color, how they're arbitrarily deciding these punishments. And so it's not a fair system that's equal for everyone. People are penalized based on the whims of the officers and court system.
Look, we saw that on the bridge. There was a man in a dump truck who pulled a gun on a protester and backed into somebody's car, and the police let him go. If they're going to arrest everybody on the bridge, then he should have also been arrested. But no, they let him go. They also let a white man who was sitting on the bridge in a chair, they also let him go. But there were people that were in cars that were like all the way back that they just pulled out of the car and arrested, assuming that they were, part of something, and they were just on the bridge.
There was a moment too when the gentleman that George was on the floor, I think, and he was dehydrated, and people were yelling for water, and somebody said, are you going to get him help? And they're like, well, a nurse is coming, and they're like, okay, but what if she doesn't come? Are you not going to call emergency services? He's literally on the floor. He's dehydrated. He needs water. He's just laying there. And they're like, well, a nurse will come. And the person next to me said, okay, fine. Well, if the nurse doesn't come and something happens, what are you going to say? He said, I'm not going to say anything. Like, they just completely have desensitized the idea that it's more important for them to punish us than to actually care for us. And if somebody were to die on their watch, they don't care. They just, it was really disheartening to see that kind of treatment happen time and time again after, so much history that we have been taught that says that we shouldn't do this, we should step in and prevent this from happening. And yet people continue to think that this is more important. It's more important to punish those who stand in the way of injustice, instead of just care for one another, because who knows what kind of circumstances people have been through just to get where they are.
I also think it's very telling about the nature at which we have to build resistance against a state that was willing to support the mandates that Trump pushed through. And I feel everybody with the whole voting and stuff, but I think we took a lot of time to help them build up to where they are. It's 2020, that was 2016 for them to come to several rallies and rally, throughout these 4 years, and build up a resistance that is stating this. And so now we see those folks. So I'm wondering, if people are watching, what is going to help you get to a state in yourself to like push for resistance, because they're not going to stop.
Mhm.
The Proud Boys started out with khakis and black polo shirts on and caps. You know what I'm saying? In DC, they had on full cargo gear, ammo strapped to them and everything. Who do you think is funding that? You have all the white supremacist groups that have always been out west, just amplifying. We saw what happened in Portland. Then we saw the federal police come into Portland. Shout out to Portland for always being down to resist,
Yeah.
regardless of how many guns are faced at them, no matter how many people are getting kidnapped. And like Vega said, Vega, if you want to tell it again, what just happened in what was it, yesterday?
Oh,
Was it yesterday?
it was a
Yeah.
couple days ago. White supremacist Proud Boys basically attacked police officers with bear spray and broke the door. Like they actually like put a trash can through the door of the state capitol, and only 2 people got arrested. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the disparity in that.
Aaliyah's joined us. We're just going on about like the state of protesters getting arrested, who these protesters are that's getting arrested. We were talking about the white supremacists getting arrested. I have a question I'm getting ready to pop up here. Gino's asking a bunch of questions, but Aaliyah, if you want to go ahead and offer any thoughts to this, that's a large question. I'll pop it back up later.
Oh, I thought you meant I'm answering that question.
You can if you want to. It was just really huge. It like took up the bottom of the screen.
I saw. Well, I don't see it anymore.
You see it in the comments?
Yeah, I don't, but they should not be. Honestly, none of these protesters should have been arrested. People on the bridge definitely should not have been arrested. Wait, how do you feel about your tax dollars going to fund the police? Oh yeah, that's some BS. I can't believe that the city council has voted to add more funding to the LMPD. I'm really disappointed in you all. We literally went through that whole hunger strike with Mr. David James, the president of the city council. I really hope that you're watching this, but I'm so disappointed in y'all. I really am.
And I mean, Greg Fisher just congratulated a bunch of officers on, I think it was their promotions. So increased pay for those individuals outside of just the budget changes that they're agreed upon. They also there's, good job to the officers and all the hard work they put in and et cetera. And at this point, he is just like, Greg Fisher is absolutely, without a doubt, just ignoring the demands of like the actual constituents of a city, because that's not where his money is invested, and that's not where the police funding is like, has nothing to do with us really, in terms of making sure that we're actually safe and provided for as a community. So yeah, it's a huge slap in the face after everything that's happened for him to gone and just very loudly congratulated these officers for their promotion. Well, just ridiculous. Like,
we need to be clear that the carceral state is an extension of capitalism, and it's big business. And I want us to think about that for a moment, that literally in this country, we have commodified the very bodies of human beings, and people all across this country are profiting off of the carceral state in so many ways.
I wanna also amplify that that I see people trying to disrupt in the comments. One, while this may sound like it's political, we are actually talking about at which the state manipulates the law to present what they want to present and what they don't want to present. And I think if people want to make a case for legal proceedings being incorrect or whatnot, then they need to fight against those instead of trying to monopolize off of that. So we're using words as commodify, monopolize. and anything else that tells you that folks are making money off of this, and that's not justice. That you're not going to get justice that way, because somebody either paid you or didn't pay you. That's not justice. The other thing that Gino brings up is, this a human rights issue or a citizen of Louisville issue? Human rights are citizen rights, so we are looking at human rights violations. We are talking about, there is state law of the way that you can actually present um, healthcare to prisoners, as well as anybody who enters into the jail system. So just because you lose your rights doesn't mean you lose your human rights. Like, that's bullshit. And what they are doing, turning the lights off, cutting the phone off, cutting the water off, and then you want to arrest protesters and throw them in jail, risking COVID. There are people who didn't even commit a violent crime that went into jail now have COVID. Like, that is, it's grotesque, and it's actually against the Geneva Convention. She also says there is no human rights laws that hold the United States or to anybody, and that's the thing. The United States have always been against human rights. Have always done human rights violations, and so here we are.
Yep.
Oh Lord, Sonny, what did you just write? And then I moved it. It came across my file, and I moved it. Yeah.
So here's the question. We know what's wrong. What are we going to do about it?
Exactly. Somebody's like, the focus needs to be on exposing corruption. It's that simple. We are. You have an entire system that one doesn't talk to each other. So that's the other thing we've noticed too. We've heard the judges talk about us in the courtrooms while we're not there. We've heard them have their communications with COs in the jail who don't communicate with the courts correctly. So we know about everybody talking about the work that we are doing. It actually does get back to us. It's not going to stop us from doing the work that we do. We are going to make sure that every last one of those folks that are inside that are suffering, that they get heard. We also are going to make sure that every family, regardless of whoever is popular at the time, has their case exemplified, because they should. No one should be killed by the state, and no one should be manipulated by the state, which is why we call for the defunding of not only the police, but the state. And moving those funds around where they need to. So I also want to amplify that we are looking at what is coming up for the budget. We know that Campaign Zero Kentucky is moving, making sure that regular citizens are in on those police contracts. They need to be adjusted and moved to, Sonny, send that message to me again. They need to be adjusted and moved to a space where the people who are supposed to be protected by the police have input on there. So I know a lot of folks have been like protesting and getting out there in the streets, but we cannot move any of those things if the FOP has jurisdiction over the police contracts and pushes those. You heard Yvette Gentry when she was on that committee call and asked, why would she asked, why would Metro Council have any interest in the police contracts? Because they represent the citizens. Like, what do you mean? Where do you think the contract came from? It came from the police being corrupt, having to create an entire union out of the makeup of labor unions and then manipulate that so that you can get a contract with the city so you can be a contracted safety worker. I guess people forgot, like we knew that. The other thing
Zero accountability too, apparently.
No accountability, all up in people's pockets. Because we don't want to, Kendrick. I think I just wanted to say that there's a particular type of way that you garner support, bashing people, because I've heard half of your peoples is volunteers and organizers with our group. We don't do that. We ain't got time for that. If you're going to expose corruption, let's actually expose the corruption. We also do a thing called accountability, where we reach into our folks. If something is going on, I'm just using people on this call. Sonny feels a particular way about Aaliyah. Vega wants to call that accountability. They reach out to either Lane, me, or V, and we sit down. We have put together an entire way that we hold accountability with our folks. And maybe we aren't the ones that sit there and hold the accountability, because you need to be neutral to that, but that's what we move. What we don't do is what you're doing in the contract and in the comments. So, yes. Oh, Logan, let's not call people very detailed words. I feel you, and I get it. I feel you. I'm a bit mad at him too. But when people find out that they've got to create coalitions and build collectives to actually fight, and the fight that we've been pushing for years, and not just on one family, and on several families, everybody's talking about corruption and stuff. Let's amplify. Let's amplify all the families who've been murdered by police and what they are fighting. Natalie, the mother of Demanje, who we all saw in a brutal viral video. So it doesn't matter if you have the video or not, they're going to do what they want. We also need to amplify Dewantes Mitchell, where they took an officer who usually is flying a helicopter and blamed him for his murder when everybody, the witnesses on the ground, saw J-Town police murder that boy. They stalked him. And let's talk about surveillance. Surveillance is a major key in your situation as well that I think you need to be very much aware of as you're doing this exposing. It's not how it works. And then they take your surveillance and use it against you. So I'd be careful. What else was you getting ready to say, Vega?
I forgot.
Somebody used the word.
That was different. Snaps to you.
I mean,
use the
but
word
let's just be,
COINTELPRO, and it's a very dangerous word to use because it is the exact system, FBI, CIA, and several organizations working together to build a counterintelligence program. They utilize people to infiltrate and spy. They also utilize folks to disrupt the narrative and work that is happening to move those things. I'm not saying that anybody on this thread is COINTELPRO. That's just very serious to be using that against people.
I just want to say that, like, in terms of the things that we talk about on here regarding police and prison abolition and defunding of the police and Black people and just the rights of all oppressed people in general, it sounds political because it's been made political. Our healthcare has been politicized. Our lives have been politicized. The state of our prisons has been politicized. And that's not on our part. It's on the part of the system that we're trying to dismantle and make better for everyone. I don't choose for these things to be a political issue that have to be argued in the court of law and in the streets or wherever it is that I'm fighting over them. I'm simply choosing to engage in this fight because it's a fight that needs to be had and it needs to be won by us so that we can secure, the safety of our communities. So these things do end up becoming political matters because they're brought into these political theaters. And of course, because capitalism politicizes these issues, because really, another way to put it is, can these issues, can these identities be commodified and profited off of? Because if they can, they've become political issues because the money and the politics, they go hand in hand. So we are talking about politics to that extent.
We don't have a choice but to talk about politics.
Yeah.
The amendments were written so that Black people, can still be murdered by the state and not have the state adjudicated. We also are talking about a system. The criminal justice system makes $700 billion off of holding cases. Majority of those cases, Black people and Black deaths, and the officers who are able to create new street teams, new laws, standard operating procedures, all of those things. All those things have to be dismantled if you want to uncover corruption. You just don't uncover corruption and nobody's mad at you, fire emojis and live videos. You make sure that you handle corruption by building out an entire case, making sure you know the law and how the law was actually broken and who broke the law. That's the point. Like, who broke the law and where's the law broken? And then you build a campaign. And unfortunately, we have to build campaigns just to get justice. And it's bullshit. Yeah. So, yeah, we have a list of demands that have actually gone through. Breonna's law, that was led by Couture Haran, who is a BLM organizer as well as an ACLU policy analyst. That law is now being adjudicated across the country. Like, legislators everywhere are picking that law up, where people cannot just bust in your home and do whatever they want to. We also are looking at what it means to have independent civilian review boards. Mind you, the city has pushed this one up underneath the state just to get the subpoena power. People are really scared about that. we still know that our communities can have an independent civilian review board without involving the state, without involving the police. We also move rapid response. I'm actually sitting outside one of the buildings that we purchased, that we saved, with all the millions of donations that everybody has given us. We are so thankful that 300,000 people decided to donate to BLM Louisville to keep up the work that we are able to do. Move mutual aid. We've got chicken dinners here at 39th and Broadway. Look at me trying to hurry up the But we also are very thankful that we have a lot of legislators, including our city council, whether Republican or Democrat, really confused as to how they fucked up real bad, right? And I love that, Sonny, you brought up the thing about the mayor. It might have been you or whoever. Or somebody's trying to get back in. Is that V? It is V. About how the mayor is being held as someone who did a great job, did a shitty job. We really have cognitive dissonance real bad. We forget that the mayor was uncovered as not being the person that runs this city. We also found out that the people who are running the city are the ones that were calling for those boards to be put up on businesses, and not all the businesses were, the boards were boarded up. If we're talking about the court system, which we are, and the jail, then why was LMPD shooting at court windows when people who work in the court building were filming them? So like, these are some things that still come up, and we have footage of all of that, in which a senator is soon to release the bill where police violence is going to be adjudicated. That has to happen at the state level. So it's just been really critical that like folks stay engaged, but also really critical that we remember what is taking place and document that. It's a lot of trauma, and it's a lot of like, it's really hard. I know a lot of us are still looking at like rubber bullet wounds. I was looking at mine the other day getting out. I was just like, it made me a little nauseous just thinking about like how to get here this Christmas, and whether we want to spend it with family or like half of us, like, what action are we getting ready to throw? So
Coming from Ferguson, I recognize that that thing. But can I give Louisville some props right
yeah.
now? One of the things that I appreciate about Louisville BLM is that in the middle of an uprising, you all had the vision to not just do the resistive work, but the creative creation work of taking care of people, of trying to build a system so that we don't need their system anymore. And so I just want to say, like, everything that we've seen you do, from like, feeding people to clothing people to bailing people out, that's hand to heart revolution that is going to change the world as much as getting arrested and being resistive and marching in the streets. It's both that we need.
I'm just going to say I hope I'm saying Junio's name right. No, we do not. It's a question in the comment. I'm going to leave. There's been a lot of documentation around it already. I'm just going to leave it there. No, we do not. We do not work for public presentation. We do not work for funds. Hell, half of us don't get paid. We do not work for anyone. We work for Black liberation. And the folks that you see on here who are not Black, who I hate, Sonny, the folks who are not. The folks who are on here who are not Black, I'm trying to keep it together. The folks who are on here who are not Black are doing work called solidarity. They know that their liberation, BIPOC people, are wrapped up in the liberation of Black people. And so, and wrote it again. Stop, y'all, covering up my screen. So we want to work with people who are actually down to dismantling the system. I mean, some of our comrades, Vega, the folks who shut down the Houston Bridge over the bayou to shut down Shell. I mean, to shut down a mega corporation who is enslaving people in Nigeria by doing a simple action of just hanging from the bridge and stopping the ships. Like, some of our homies are those people that live here in this city. They are facing federal time. They are facing federal charges, while the people who killed Breonna, Demanje, Shelton, shot Shelton. I mean Shelton. No, I'm going to say Sterling. Who am I saying?
Who's the
Shelby.
officer that got fired for raping women and never got charged? Let's talk about that. You know, like,
Which one? You got them?
People are being taken for stupid shit regularly, things that are not in any question immoral or unethical. But here we are with knowing who the murderers are for Brianna, knowing who the murderers are for Dang, for Shelby Gazaway, for Duantes, for Demanje. We know who those people are. We have body camera footage of some of those killings, and nothing has been done. But you stand on a bridge one day and here you are. So
get
let's
arrested.
talk about wasting people's time and taking up community, taking care of one another. They're just wanting to get us from taking care of one another. They want to hold our resources over our heads and starve us. That's basically what's happening.
They want to try and intimidate us, but that ain't gonna work. So
That part. The work is making sure that the systems no longer exist so people can live in a way that they don't have to be condemned by the system. And so we are definitely making to make sure, got it down at the bottom. If you want to volunteer for LCBF, call into the hotline. Lane took a break for a little bit, had to. It's really hard listening to the calls that come in from jail, but Lane's phone died. But also the calls that come in from the community, the complicated calls that come in from the lawyers trying to get their clients out of jail and away from prison time. There's a lot of judge work to be done on that. We're looking at, and we are going to target heavily in the new year, District 7, 8, and 9 for offering some of the harshest bails. Like some of y'all bails don't even make sense. Oh, he's mad because nobody pays him attention. And I'm not
now,
getting ready
do you have to be local to do to volunteer for the bail fund?
Oh, absolutely not. Most of our bail fund work is making sure that we keep up with the trends that are happening. We report that out to our national coalitions, especially Free the People. We also want to keep up with what is happening within the movement of End Money Bail, which is an actual movement of the movement for Black Lives. So that's what National Bailout. Shout to them who do Mama's Bailout. Every year, freeing not only just mamas but also caretakers. Lord, everybody want to be a donkey today. So you also can help with data. Data is just like tracking what's coming in, keeping up with what we do have. They have a new system coming. Thank you, Jesus, because I love spreadsheets, but this will make you not like spreadsheets. We also have a lot of calls that take place with our support teams, and those are people who go out and build support systems for not only just the people that we bail out, but the people who are their family members, their community members, their children, and even in such certain situations, the people all related in their party of interest. So that's a lot of work there. But then like the hotline is really easy to jump on. It's open all the time. Bailing out folks is something that we definitely want everybody to experience, where we're finding out a lot of the judges have messed up. Running back and forth between floors has been fun here lately. Some people's names have been wrong. They've not even had people's correct information on there. So getting that information back out to the lawyers is very important as they fight for their case. Shout out to the public defender's office. Like, I don't even know how the fuck they do it. And I really feel bad for them. Like every time they call us, they just sound so exhausted, but they are really moving to a place of understanding what abolition really means and what it means, especially for some of their repeat offender clients. So they've been throwing down. And then just some of our lawyers who have been with us since 2014. Shit, that's just the beginning of the movement. But even beyond that, doing work, definitely like folks like Dan Cannon, Mourning, Sullivan, Rob Eckert, just everybody being able to like throw down and to pull up for people who can't even afford to get lawyering services in the middle of an uprising at that. And everybody who's just been throwing down, creating jail support services. Let's make sure we show up for court support services because this is where it matters the most. We need as many people like we did Monday to show up for tomorrow. I'm going to re-put those. That's a new thing. Put those graphics out and show up so everybody can see what it does. Now let him go ahead and keep commenting. It's going to be historic, and it'll stay right there. He wants to get seen, so let him be seen. What it means
So now
to
it
go ahead.
sounds like what you're saying is that the jail support that you are needing is can be done anywhere across the country. So all these folks who are wanting to participate, who are at home on lockdowns, can be trained to do this work, which is actually the front line of the frontline work, right?
Front line, right? So that's the protesters you see. Those are the people who make up being visible. People think that like jumping on the news or doing lives and shit is a bunch of work. That shit's annoying as fuck. And it gets you a lot of negative attention. So that frontline work is making sure you're either protesting or you're organizing. Organizing means how are we taking the tools that we do have and building power against the system that means not to create any power for ourselves or any freedom for ourselves. So that's the work that we do, getting people free and making sure that we can condemn the systems that are actually right there. We also want folks to be looking out for a webpage for the Democratic Caucus. I needed that put together so we can see the laws that we have to pay attention to. And then it comes directly from our Democrats that are at our state level. So, oh, Lane's coming back. Good, because she can talk about LCBF work. But we definitely want to make sure that people join in with that, especially as people go to the state for Breonna's law. We want people to know to look out for like open and transparency as it relates to police officers. We're also looking at what it means to allow everybody to vote. Like that shit is just getting ridiculous. Everybody can vote, but like we need to be really moving the mark when we talk about okay, got you. We really need to be moving the mark when we're talking about people keep talking in the chat and it keeps covering up the thing. What it means to push policy at the same time that we push back against the state, that we push against the state. And I think, Vega, a lot of people don't see that. And I think that's what you're alluding to. People don't know that you have to build at the same time that we're doing this. Yeah, I sure can support, send up our website of how we get this work done and who our targets are. Oh, I wish I had that plan. Gotta catch a target. You gotta be on target to hit your target. I just made up a new one. Our divest.org website is a running large media kit of everything that we worked on and more. Some definite targets that we need to be hitting, and some places you guys that we've got to start boycotting. I know we love White Castles, but trust me, your waistline is thinking more. So you'll see a sheet on here headed by Little Sister. They're banging out. Damn it, I meant to do that. Stop. That one is. I gotta edit it. Oh, did it move? Now it's moving. Little Sister puts together, when you go to the targets page, Little Sister puts together like all the targets you need for police foundations. So that's another target. Not only the police unions and their contracts. Again, shout out to Campaign Zero Kentucky and Campaign Zero, who do some very dope ass fucking work around police contracts, amplifying how unjust they are. But also, these police foundations are getting funds and funding a lot of the gear that we are seeing on a lot of these officers, not just bikes and socks and shit. If you want to turn it off, leave and block it. I don't even know how you're going to get anybody to listen to you. You continue to keep doing this. If you want to know how to effectively fight injustice and corruption, you got to actually build a campaign against it. Keep calling somebody out and stalking people's phones is not going to do it. You need to watch that shit. Didn't nobody want me to tell you that, but that's what the fuck you need to do. Anybody got anything else? I got to run into the church.
Yeah. Enjoy the dinner and feeding the people.
Yes, 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 yes.
Happy winter solstice, y'all.
Hey, yeah.
A new era. Let's usher in a new era of like peace.
Well, and like Vega said, like you can volunteer from anywhere. One of my favorite hotline volunteers that we have is an elder in Ohio who's at risk of COVID, so she's really, really isolated. Said she
I'm already.
said one time that the LCBF really gives her the opportunity to see that her isolation is a choice, and the effects that it has. So if you guys are isolating over COVID, it's a good reminder. You know, there's people that don't have the option to be apart from all of their friends and family, and at least we have Zoom. So like I said, elders are volunteering all over the country to step in and watch courts, support protesters in court. So while we're sitting at home bored to tears, it's really easy to join in right now since everything's virtual.
Thanks,
Be the
And if
revolutionary mama saying, "You bored? We got stuff for you to do."
hey, you hear me? Yes, no, but for real, yes. Happy solstice to everybody.
if
Go
you
ahead, Sonny.
can show up, oh, I was going to say, if you can show up in person, things that are always happening that always need support are Clothe the West. If you look that up on Facebook, they have updates on the things that they're doing, and you can always get in contact through those pages. Change Today, Change Tomorrow is always needing volunteers to do food runs among the variety of things that they do for the community. And if you go to the Change Today, Change Tomorrow website, they have a volunteer link that you can use to sign up for different things based on your availability. They even have like a section on there for if you have to do remote support for that. But again, LCBF always has remote work that can be done. But again, if you can show up in person, Clothe the West and Change Today, Change Tomorrow are doing amazing things all the time for the community. They're feeding people. They're getting people set up with, adequate, like, I think I've seen childcare services come through Clothe the West. Like, they do all sorts of stuff over there. They're amazing. But yeah, there's a lot of different ways to get plugged in, and just, reach out to those pages and go through the websites, and you'll be able to find that info.
And then I'm so glad you said that. Oh, go ahead, Aaliyah.
No, I don't. I shouldn't. Kendrick, how many white people do you see here right now?
If he calls me white, I'm gonna be pissed. I'm proud.
Oh my God. No, I was going to ignore that.
Solidarity.
I thought it was so funny too. I thought getting me out of my character was another thing. I just love doing these lives and people see me like, no, I ain't never offered to be anything else but what I'm offering right now. Not a character I present. Anyway, not even thinking about his ass. But I was going to amplify also. Black Market Kentucky opens up on January 2nd. Zion's going to do a commercial. It's going to be like, it is organic. It is organic. That's awesome. Saying at a planning meeting, she just kept saying it's organic. So that was kind of cute. But yeah, I don't know if anybody got some groceries from Black Market. It was the dopest, all from Black farmers, only Black services used through there, showing that we do have not only political but economic power in our community. So community power, 3 global demands right there: economic, political, and community power. Doing that. And then shout out to Chantrice, who was on here, is always pushing the community, feeding the community. I think we've got over 10,000 meals going out this week because of JCPS running out of some food for some families. Lots of folks hitting us up. We got Christmas dinners going out on Christmas Day, full dinners. We're not just talking about plates today. We still have a few plates left at 39th and Broadway here at the old 3rd Street Baptist Church. I forgot what the title was of it. We have not named our building yet. It still looks like a church. But come through and get you some plates. Of course, it's chicken, green beans, macaroni and cheese stuffing, rolls, and cornbread. It is by our cook team who've been feeding people since March because of Corona. There are people who are still at home. Y'all take precautions, use hand sanitizers, keep you like a little like goodie bag of like just really things to keep you nice and clean. Extra mask. We have a bunch of these that shout out to our partners at Black Voters Matter and the Voter Brigade push out. Like, get y'all some of these. We'll be pulling in some too. They will be free. All our masks will be free. There are a few masks that are being sold at Black Market, but get you a mask and put it on and wear it. Go get tested. Like, I feel like one of those STD commercials. Go get tested.
Black Market, by the way, is at 2313 West Market. It's at 23rd and Market. Just for that person who is asking.
You know, I find it ironic that they're wanting to give everybody
right now free. No, I'm just trying to tell Kendrick, because he was like talking about food. I guess people think I'm like really upset that I'm fluffy. I'm not, because I think it's cute. Anyway, we're feeding the community free plates. We have 400 meals going out right now. People are rolling up and rolling in. That's why I want to get my plate. I cooked half the food. I didn't. Half the chicken. Who threw down? Oh my God. Y'all know Missy from Beecher, always throwing down. We also got HB from HB Soul Creations. Like, do not play. Do not play with HB's food. The Cajun pasta will have you dreaming about it. I did. I dreamt about it the other day. We also got Buki. Y'all know her from all the different eventing places, always cooking and throwing down for us. Nene, forever always being just like a piece of glue, just keeping us together. Everybody's like sister. Miss Nisi, Missy Mama from Beecher. So yeah, it's just been awesome, just throwing down. And one of our mamas from our mama support group that we help with the mamas that have been evicted and stuff, making sure that they stay together, getting them housed. She's throwing down now. So it's just been real cute, just watching community get built so that we can fight back.
I find it ironic that the courts, one of the ways that they want to punish you is by giving you community service, not realizing that's we consider that our duty to do community service, right? It's not a punishment.
Right. Right. So I did pop that up, but it covers up everybody's faces. So weird. Rebecca, one of our coordinators within LCBF, is amplifying Abolition 101. What better way than to have a movement about ending high mass incarceration and the murdering of Black people by the state than Abolition 101, so people can actually know what it is that they're fighting, how long they've been fighting this since the inception of this nation. And then we got LCBF kicking off the New Year's Live at 3:00. Court Watch training January 8th and a full LCBF training February 6th. That will always detail the transformative demand around ending cash bail, not only in Louisville, not only in Kentucky, but we are talking about all the folks who are throwing down across the nation against that. Shout out to Song Southerners on the New Ground, who really just bang out. All the BLM chapters and their bailout groups across the nation. Like, pull up. That's nationalbailout.org if y'all want to check that out. Join the FB group for updates, most def. I'm gonna leave that up a little bit. It's cutting into Lane and Leah's face. Oh, Lane, don't worry about it. It's cute. People are getting at him in the comments too. People are just lonely. Court is tomorrow at what time?
We got 11 o'clock. We got a 10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. 1 o'clock, I think, too.
Gino, yes. Of course we do. What we don't do is amplify shit before it's ready. I just want to name that. I think a lot of people think that, like, as soon as you find something out, that you got to continue to keep pushing. Now you got to build power. One thing we don't have is power. We think, oh, if I put it out and I go viral, that'll get it. No, that's not how that happened. March 13th, did nobody push it out but Breonna's family and friends. And hearing like what was going on with the case, trying to get Kenny out was a sensitive issue. Our lawyer, Rob, was involved in all of that, called us up and everything. So we have to make sure that we can build the power so that we can actually push it out. I mean, what was really unfortunate was Ahmaud Arbery goes off in Georgia. Shout out to Malcolm X grassroots movement and Just Georgia for putting together a dope ass coalition with strong ass fucking demands to call for abolition down there. And then and Auntie Bianca asked us to push out another graphic during all of that. Like, that shit takes a lot to organize and build power. So that's what people need to do. Yeah. So when I was talking about building accountability councils. I'm answering Kendrick in the messages, y'all. So y'all can go ahead and look at what the fuck he's talking about. Yes. So we know Max. And so Max answered being held accountable. He has a whole accountability council that he's under right now. And if folks want to hold him accountable, then they can do that too. But also what we're not going to do is continue to keep amplifying that somebody did something without actually holding them accountable. That's part of abolition. We actually have the tools to do what we're asking folks to do. So what some folks are asking people to do is to yell out Black Lives Matter, but then you're willing to call police on people. The two don't mix. Question from the Facebook group. With the rental assistance, did they pay landlords direct to pay tenants who were expected to pay landlords? How did assistance work? So I'm sure this person is talking about all the money that came in, one from that first stimulus package, which was not a stimulus package. It wasn't. We have not gotten any money from the government in the middle of Corona. And other organizations raised money to pay the rents. We've paid almost $300,000 in folks' rents, trying to make, with the reparations roundtable, trying to make sure that people stay housed, but also new housing because they got wrongfully evicted. So they were supposed to do all of this work, right? You got to send in this, you got to do all this running around and shit. So they sent in those things, and either you got the money or you didn't, and that was only for 1 month's rent. Nobody was paying back people's multiple months of rent. Like, that's the fucked up part. That's where a lot of funding goes, just to keep people houses, paying back all of that. So what also happened was, for some reason, Metro Council thinks it's okay to keep $6.2 million instead of actually housing people with that money. Shout out to Metro Council, just again making really bad decisions, like keeping Mayor Fisher in office. So the CARES Act that went out paid landlords or management companies. It did not pay residents, which it should have. So residents did not get immediate assistance on rent. No, they did not. So if you are faced with an eviction, this is something that we try to amplify all the time. As soon as you know you don't have rent funds, you need to hit up somebody immediately. As soon as you know, not as soon as rent is due. Two different things. As soon as you know, not when rent is due. And then you also need to make sure when you get that eviction letter to hit up support too. So you can hit up the Black Lives Matter Louisville housing team. That's the work that we do. I know it doesn't look like updates on the page, but it has been hectic this year trying to make sure people stay housed, get housed, and then get them to safe housing. But we also have tons of emergency housing about to open up. We've got 2 locations right now housing about 6 families and about 4 individuals. We also want to get this church together so we can make an emergency zone. We have an emergency house that's getting renovated. We have another house getting giveaway and storage. So we do have storage for people who can afford storage. Ain't nobody saying her name. You already dealt with her. You can ask her community too. She don't want to deal with it either. All she wants to do is just keep naming stuff online. I am going to answer that because it's getting annoying. She went down my entire friends list and started harassing people. If she wants to enter into the accountability process, which means doing a healing technique first, then yes. But what you're not going to do is keep stalking people. Yes, we have. That's not a case. He can handle that. We worry about our people.
Did y'all talk about the bridge and why we did it and how it happened and how we were trapped in by the cops?
Yeah, but if you want to amplify that, because it was actually Aaliyah's car that was hit by the white man that was never adjudicated for pulling a gun out on folks and running back and forth on the bridge.
Yeah, there was a dump truck that was on the bridge during the bridge protest, and he backed into my car, slowly, but into my car. And he also pulled out a gun and threatened to shoot one of the protesters who was asking him why he was doing this. They went up to his window and he pulled out a gun. And, I saw footage from, I think, WLKY of the cops questioning him when he was leaving the bridge. They like asked him to get out of his truck and questioned him, and they let him go.
Do we
And then,
have that?
Hmm?
Do we have that video?
It's online. It's on their website. I can find it, but I also have his truck company.
I think the phone it was on might have got destroyed on the bridge.
Well, I have some footage of like on the bridge, but I mean like footage of him being questioned is online by the cops. But yeah, I mean he put like a large like cut in the hood of my car. And I did not get out of my car.
Yeah.
On that protest. So when you think about the reason that we were there and yeah, why we did the protest is like we wouldn't have been there if they had already like why haven't they fired or even arrested Breonna Taylor's killers, like, and all the people that were on that banner. Like we did that as a day of mourning, but also because the city needed to wake up.
That part. Some more questions from the comments. Isaiah, is the communication between the chapter's global initiative, the movement, and the rest of the groups? It sounded like a mess on Roland Martin. Yeah, Roland really fucked that interview up. So the chapters have always been in communication. That's what made the global network. So to build it like a network. And we've been trying to build that out for years. And then this year happened. And that's why we were calling accountability, because it was like, you didn't let anybody know that you was getting ready to do that. But the Movement for Black Lives, that steering committee that holds and pushes our demands and helps us amplify what's going on, that we need to utilize. There's thousands of organizations worldwide a part of the Movement for Black Lives. Yes, there's always been in communication with the chapters and individual organizations. So it's not as complicated as Roland said. What Roland did mention was that really kind of stuck with me is if something is decentralized, then it's deorganized. That's incorrect. Decentralization just means you value the leadership of everybody and you don't put that leadership all on one person. I mean, we can take that back to COINTELPRO and just saying that's the particular leader and that's the person that holds all that information and how people were targeted. That's why the movement is making sure that we're made up of like so many different people from so many different backgrounds and stuff. So definitely wanted to amplify that. It was somebody else about yes, Miss Janice, have they dropped the bridge charges? No, unfortunately. We've not seen any charges dropped yet from the uprising. And I'm so thankful that you joined us today too. Shout out to one of our elders, Miss Janice. You can catch her her writings in the Courier Journal. But yeah, we're a bit upset about that too. So it's been really really upsetting. Gino, you might want to watch like who you amplify. I'm just like letting you know that. But you mentioned something that I was trying to answer a while back. Oh, when you said, looking into somebody's case because they've been harassed, we are not. We are not activists. We are organizers. We are organizers because we are actually people who've been hit up by police terrorism. I'm a police terrorism survivor, and everybody on this screen, as well as everybody we organize with. It's not a requirement, but people want to fight back, and so we're fighting back. We just happen to be an organized faction that does that. So we're not up here just shouting out or pumping our fists. We're doing that because we do want to fight back. So no, that's okay. That's an assistant. So yeah.
It's Douchemark Express LLC is a veteran-owned trucking company. This white guy who looked like Santa who works for them, he threatened to run over protesters for Black Lives.
Yeah, I want to amplify that too.
They're based in Indiana.
If you want to repeat that again, I will try to. If you want to text that to me, Aaliyah, I can make sure I run it across the bottom of the screen. Rebecca says the only people who have had charges dropped have been the people with big names. The regular everyday folks aren't getting that treatment. And that's another thing that comes with amplification and commodifying of this shit. This is justice work. This is not no motherfucking competition. And so there are people who have seen their officers who have terrorized them. There are young folks who don't have a job anymore. There are people who are houseless who've been violently evicted. Everybody who joined in the streets and got arrested deserve all their charges to be dropped, not just because you have a show on here or you can travel nationally across the nation or whatever. So let me grab that. So yeah, we definitely are highly upset that like the folks who need their jobs back, the folks who have the right, you have the First Amendment right to protest, aren't getting that right. It's not a pretty serious question. It's actually very irrelevant, but it's also a really shitty way to like bring up people who are sex offenders. Those are people who are actually adjudicated for sex crimes. And then someone who is stalking people about a sexual assault, which we do not take lightly. And that's not what you play about. You seem to love, this is Kendrick Wilson in the comments, y'all. You seem to love to amplify people's trauma. And I don't know if you even asked Brianna's family if you can keep showing that video over and over and over again. Think about her sister. Think about Kenny. Think about those people who get traumatized by seeing that over and over again. So, like, what's your game plan? Coming here and like throwing up fire emojis is not justice. Kids don't have anything to do with sexual offenders. That's pedophiles. Like, let's be real about what the fuck we're talking about. Let me tell her that he's still here, because she tripping out.
I'm about to head off, but I just want to say again, you know, we're doing all this work for Black liberation, and that means, you know, abolition of the prisons that exploit Black lives for labor, and that means abolition of the police who prey upon these Black lives to put them in these prisons. And it also means creating a sustainable community that actually allows people to thrive. And that requires transformative and restorative justice, not just through the eradication of these corrupt and predatory systems, but also creating the systems that we actually want to see, and the compassion for people within our communities that we actually want to see at our own level, that we have control over and have the ability to change and affect. So yeah, if you guys have the ability to, please help out with LCBF, help out with Change Today, Change Tomorrow, help out with Black Market. I know they're working on the garden lately. Probably still need more help with that. And hit up Clothes the West, because, well, they're on a break right now. But after the new year, hit them up.
Right.
All right.
Gino, again, why has there not been any protests since the election? You must not be from here or in this city. People are gathering and protesting every day, for is what I know. And there's multiple protests some days. Some protests are for housing, some for against the police, basically against the police. Hell, they just had a protest outside of the jail the other day. So either get active or like a lot of times when we say, just shut the fuck up. Yes, that fight is called Free 'em All, and that's for people who are political prisoners of uh, the movement. Jericho movement is what that is, and they fight for folks. Trying to put that company. How come I can't? Oh, okay, there I go. There I go. I wanted to make sure I get it on while we still have this moving.
Yes. So I'm gonna head out too soon. But just want to make sure that people do make sure you come out to this virtual court session tomorrow. well, there's going to be 4 of them with protesters, or 4 protesters, and that'll be at 11 a.m. for courtroom 301. It'll be, I'm sorry, 10 a.m. for courtroom 301.
I'll make sure it's put out too. I'll make sure I put the graphics back out too. So somebody asked me for a debate. No, I only debate my equals, John Henry.
Somebody asked
Clark,
for a debate.
Child. Miss Janet says what to do and who to lobby to get the bridge charges dropped. Those are federal charges, correct? No, those are misdemeanor charges. We thought they were going to do the federal charges, so there was 2 options. Because when you do an action, you got to make sure you know what is going to happen legally. And we only got the misdemeanor, so the unlawful assembly and then blocking the highway. Nobody at the bridge action got alternative charges. There are protesters who have been protesting with other folks, and everybody else get arrested for certain charges, and then they have amplified their charges. We'll put that out too, so people can have the numbers to call. That'd be a great little Christmas gift if we can get people's charges dropped. But definitely come to court support tomorrow in the morning. This is the name of the company of the asshole who hit Aaliyah's car and then put a gun out on her.
Yeah, he looked like Santa. But I'm gonna be contacting his company to see what's up.
Okay. Oh, and Gino, yes, we do keep up with Baba Shakur, so look out for that because there are some new updates in his case. He was supposed to be out several years ago, and so they are still fighting that. Shout out to Mama Africa, Mama Pam Africa. I said Mama Africa, Mama Pam Africa, who just texted me the update on that the other day. Yes, there have several been. The Move, Alfred, tons of people. Go check out the Jericho movement. If you are going to try to relay information, make sure you have it correct and make sure it's not just for show. We don't play about those things. All right. Thank y'all. And I'll see you later, girl.
Thank you guys.
All right, bye.
Bye.